At first glance, the Type 022 looks like someone cut a normal warship in half, pulled the two sides apart, and built a bridge between them. From the bow, there is no single hull. There are two narrow wave-piercing bodies, a wide structure suspended between them, and an upper deck covered in hard angles instead of the rounded shapes seen on many older patrol craft. It looks unusual because it is unusual. But that strange silhouette hides the real engineering question. Building one slim hull is difficult enough. Building two, keeping them aligned, joining them into one rigid craft, fitting propulsion into both sides, and doing all of that in lightweight aluminium, creates a completely different manufacturing problem. China ultimately produced around 60 of these fast attack craft. So the Type 022 was not just an experiment. The geometry had to become repeatable. And the key to that story begins long before the boat reaches the water. A craft roughly 43 meters long and about 12 meters wide does not begin as a recognizable ship. It begins as material, panels, stiffeners, and structural sections. For a high-speed aluminium vessel, the attraction of aluminium is obvious. It allows a large structure to remain comparatively light. But lightweight metal brings a problem that becomes more serious as the panels grow larger. Heat can distort them. Conventional fusion welding locally melts the material. That heat can leave residual stress and pull a thin structure out of shape as it cools. On a small bracket, a little distortion may be corrected. Across large ship panels, accumulated distortion can make later assembly harder. And for a vessel whose two hulls must eventually line up beneath one shared deck structure, dimensional error is not a small detail. This is where one of the most interesting manufacturing clues appears. Technical work published by TWI reports that friction stir-welded aluminium alloy panels were used in the Type 022 program. Friction stir welding works differently from conventional fusion welding. A rotating tool travels along the joint while the metal remains below its melting point. The process softens and mechanically stirs the material together in the solid state. That sounds like a small change. It is not. Because the metal is not melted in the same way, heat input can be lower, distortion can be reduced, and large prefabricated panels can be produced with better dimensional repeatability. Chinese industry developed machines capable of producing wide aluminium ship panels, and TWI described friction stir welding as part of a shift from extensive manual field welding toward more standardized panel production. One detail shows how industrial this process had become. TWI documented a Chinese wide-panel friction stir welding machine designed in 2006 that could work with aluminium sheets and extrusions from 2 to 6 millimeters thick, with panels produced as large as 12 by 5 meters. That machine is not proof of the exact equipment used on every Type 022, but it reveals the manufacturing ecosystem developing around large, repeatable aluminium structures at roughly the same period. Imagine the difference on the factory floor. Instead of asking workers to correct every large panel after heat has pulled it out of shape, the goal is to begin assembly with a flatter, more consistent component. That matters when the next operation depends on measured relationships between structures several meters apart. And it matters even more when production is spread across more than one shipyard. Repeatability has to travel with the design. Now the first piece of the Type 022 makes sense. Before the strange hull can be assembled, the shipyard needs large structures that arrive as accurately as possible. But flat panels still do not explain the shape. The next problem is turning those structural pieces into two long, narrow hulls. This is the defining feature of the Type 022, a wave-piercing catamaran rather than a conventional monohull. Instead of one broad displacement body, the vessel spreads its buoyant structure across two separate hulls, with a large central structure spanning the gap. That arrangement creates the silhouette viewers recognize immediately. It also creates a manufacturing challenge hidden by the finished paint. The two sides cannot simply look symmetrical. Their geometry has to work together. Structural sections must be positioned, supported, and joined so that the hulls remain correctly related as the cross-deck grows between them. Any error is no longer isolated to one side of the vessel. It can affect the relationship between both hulls, the deck structure above them, machinery spaces, exterior panels, and later fittings. Public sources do not reveal the exact original factory sequence used for every Type 022 hull. So it would be wrong to pretend we can watch a documented, step-by-step assembly line. What the surviving evidence does show is the industrial logic, accurate aluminium structures, modular assembly, multiple shipyards, and a design that had to be reproduced many times. And once the two hulls are joined, another strange choice becomes visible at the stern. There are no exposed conventional propellers hanging behind the craft. The Type 022 uses waterjet propulsion. Water is drawn into the propulsion system and expelled through jet outlets to create thrust. Public descriptions associate the class with 4 waterjets, distributed across its twin-hull architecture. For this boat, propulsion is not an accessory added after the shape is finished. It has to fit the shape. Machinery, intake paths, ducts, outlets, and supporting structure must coexist inside two relatively narrow hull bodies. The result is a stern that looks very different from a traditional shaft and propeller arrangement. And it helps explain why the catamaran form and propulsion system need to be understood together rather than as separate features. This is also where the Type 022 stops looking like a strange aluminium shell and starts becoming a machine. Systems are installed. Electrical routes spread through the structure. Bridge spaces, external fittings, sensors, and the mast complete the upper profile. The large aft enclosures become part of the recognizable operational configuration. But one visual feature dominates almost everything above the waterline: angles. Look closely at the bridge and superstructure, and very little appears accidental. Large surfaces are sloped. Corners are broken into facets. Even details around the windows use angular treatment. The purpose is to manage radar reflections by avoiding some of the simple right angle and vertical surfaces that can produce stronger returns. That does not make the vessel invisible. In fact, analysis of satellite synthetic aperture radar imagery has shown that Type 022 craft can still be detected. The more accurate point is simpler. The exterior geometry incorporates radar cross-section reduction features. And that creates another manufacturing constraint. A smooth box is easy to understand. A faceted shell demands that many surfaces meet at deliberate angles. The finished form depends on the accuracy of the structure underneath it. If earlier panels are distorted or the two hulls are misaligned, the problem does not remain hidden. It propagates into the geometry that comes later. This is why the manufacturing story keeps returning to the beginning. The unusual shape is only possible if each earlier step preserves the geometry needed by the next one. If you enjoy seeing how unusual machines become repeatable industrial products, subscribe to Modus Assembly. Because the final part of this build is where all of those hidden tolerances finally meet the real world. Once structural assembly, machinery installation, systems integration, and exterior completion are finished, the craft can leave the yard. At this point, the Type 022 finally looks simple again. The seams disappear beneath the finished surfaces. The twin hulls that were once separate structures now read as one complete vessel. The water jets are integrated into the stern. The angular upper body looks almost sculpted rather than assembled. But a completed hull is not the same thing as an accepted ship. The vessel still has to prove that the manufacturing work functions as one system. Dockside checks can verify installed equipment before progressive trials move the craft into its real environment. Propulsion has to operate under load. Steering and maneuvering have to match the control system. Structural behavior now takes place in waves instead of on supports in a factory. Systems that worked independently must now work together. And for a wave-piercing catamaran, the water itself reveals the design. Seen head-on at speed, the two narrow bows divide the sea, while the broad central structure remains above the gap between them. From the rear, waterjet wash makes the propulsion concept visible. During turns, the craft's unusually wide stance becomes obvious. The geometry that looked almost abstract on the production floor suddenly has a physical purpose. This is the payoff of the entire manufacturing chain. The aluminium panels were not produced accurately just to look clean in a factory. They had to become hull structures. The hull structures had to preserve the relationship between two separate bodies. That relationship had to accept machinery, water jets, and the cross deck. The upper structure then had to preserve a deliberately faceted exterior. And the completed craft had to repeat that process not once, but across a production run large enough for Reuters to report roughly 60 vessels delivered before production ended. That scale changes the meaning of the Type 022. A prototype can tolerate unusual manufacturing methods because engineers can spend extraordinary effort making one example work. Serial production is less forgiving. Jigs, panel processes, assembly logic, and inspections have to support repetition. The design must move from something that can be built to something that can be built again. That may be the most important lesson hidden inside this strange little warship. The Type 022 is often introduced through what it carries, or how fast it can travel. But its more interesting story may be the industrial one. A commercial-looking wave-piercing concept became a naval platform. Aluminium panel technology helped make large, lightweight structures more repeatable. Two hulls became one wide craft. Water jets were packaged into the twin-body layout, and a collection of flat panels and structural modules became one of the most visually distinctive vessels in the Chinese Navy. More than 2 decades after the class first appeared, official Chinese military media was still showing Type 22 boats in service in 2026. The silhouette has not become less strange with age. If anything, it has become easier to understand, because now the central question has an answer. Why build a missile boat with 2 hulls? And how could such an unconventional shape be produced repeatedly? The answer is not one secret machine. It is not one dramatic assembly step. It is a chain of manufacturing decisions. Lightweight aluminium construction, reported friction stir-welded panel production, controlled structural alignment, twin hull integration, compact waterjet propulsion, accurate outfitting, and a faceted exterior built on top of everything that came before. From a distance, the Type 022 looks futuristic. Up close, it is something more interesting. It is a lesson in how an unusual geometry becomes a production system. And that is what Modus Assembly is here to uncover.